I'm going to say something that might sound impossible, especially if you're stuck in the thick of this, okay? I overcame 20 years of overeating, emotional eating, and binge eating after spending more than 15 years in therapy. What changed wasn't having more discipline or willpower, which I know you have so much of. What changed was realizing this wasn't actually a food problem, it was a nervous system safety problem. So if you're a high-functioning, determined woman, and you've done therapy, you've done self-development, you understand your patterns, and this is still the one thing you can't figure out, I want you to take a breath with me. You've been trying to knock over the last domino instead of the first, which is nervous system safety. And this isn't just you, this is the story for all of my clients. So Daniela came to me after years of therapy. She's brilliant, she's ambitious. She told me that 75% of her energy was consumed by food, losing weight. And before turning 26, she said, this can't be my life. I can't keep struggling with emotional eating. She didn't need more willpower inside her therapy. She needed a root cause method. And after joining our program, she now has said out loud, food and body image are a non-issue for me. So if you're listening to this thinking, okay, I also need a root cause approach, I want you to apply for a one-on-one body confidence and food freedom call. This call is complimentary. We're going to assess what's actually driving these struggles for you. We're going to create a personalized blueprint to break free, and you're going to leave much better off from that call, even if you decide not to move forward and work with us. Okay, so let's dive into the step-by-step, piece-by-piece roadmap of how you can break free by focusing on your nervous system. Step 1. From focusing on what's wrong to focusing on what's right. Let me explain. For most of my life, I thought binge eating meant that something bad was happening to me, that I was broken, that I was out of control, that I didn't want it badly enough. And because I was a high achieving woman in all other areas of my life, it made me feel even more ashamed because I could handle responsibility. I could show up, I could achieve. I'm the firstborn daughter in my family. But when it came to food, I felt like I had two personalities. And here's what I didn't understand back then, which I don't think you do yet. Binge eating is often an automatic coping strategy your nervous system uses to feel relief. That's what's right about what your nervous system is doing. It's not random. It's not because you're weak. It's because at some point, usually when you're young, your nervous system learned that food creates this fast shift in your internal state. It can numb, it can soothe, it can quiet the brain, gives you a sense of fullness and safety. So your nervous system stores that information as a pathway. And then years later, anytime your system runs past capacity from loneliness, overwhelm, burnout, it reaches for that fast pathway, and food is the off switch. So if you've ever said, I don't feel like I choose this, that's the point. Because a lot of this is happening automatically beyond logic and willpower. And the more you shame yourself, the more threat you create in the body, which actually makes your nervous system need that relief even more. And that's why the advice that says just stop doesn't work, because it doesn't address your nervous system or any part of this in the first place. So the first domino is not the behavior of binge eating. The first domino is the state you're living in that causes you to binge. So I want you to just practice with me, asking yourself the question, when you think about those overeating or binge eating episodes, what do you think your system is actually asking for in those moments? Is it relief? Is it numbing loneliness? Is it just letting go of the stress of the day? What do you think your body is actually asking for in those moments? And in those days, so if you think back over the last week or month with your overeating struggles, what do you think actually pushed you past capacity those days? Because really often we can see a correlation between our stress and our binge eating and overeating, and a correlation between our binge eating and overeating and some specific thing that our body was trying to do in order to find relief. So think about those two questions. What was my body really trying to do in those moments? What pushed me past capacity? Because high achievers don't binge because they're hungry. You know that. They binge because they're depleted and they don't have another way to come down, right? And that awareness alone is really, really powerful because it will detach your identity from the behavior. Because a lot of you are telling yourselves, I'm just a binge eater. This is who I am. And you forget that this is actually something that was learned and therefore it can be unlearned. And remember, as I said before, if you're hearing this thinking, okay, this is starting to make sense. Now, how on earth do I overcome this? You can book a body confidence and food freedom call to really develop a personalized blueprint to freedom and learn if my root cause method is actually the right fit for you. Okay, now let's get into step 2. Step 2, I stopped relying on willpower and started relying on regulation, because your logical mind is actually offline when this is all happening. This is huge, and this explains so much of the why do I know better, but it can't stop this behavior experience you're having. So let me get into the details. When your nervous system is in a stress state from hypervigilance, overwhelm, high pressure, it's not optimized for decision making, it's optimized for relief. So in the moment of an urge, you have to understand your logical mind is often offline. That's why you feel crazy. That's why you feel like you can promise yourself every single day, I'm not going to do this tomorrow, and then wind up doing the same thing. It's not because you don't care. It's because your system is in survival. And a survival system does not prioritize logic, does not prioritize any kind of behavior change, any of that. You have to fundamentally understand anytime your nervous system feels triggered and is in a state of stress, which can happen simply from receiving an email. Okay, that's how sensitive this is. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that is responsible for decision making, for willpower, for choice, offline. The part of you that's in control is your survival brain, and that is millions of times more powerful than the logical brain. So that is why it doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself, I'm not going to do this, your logical brain and willpower centers are not online. And that survival brain runs the program that it has done time and time again through years of conditioning and practice, which is finding the fastest source of relief, which is food. Okay? You're not crazy, but it's very important I explain this to you because now you can understand, okay, I've been trying to fix this through logic and willpower, but that's actually offline. So therefore, how we fix this is actually working with that survival system and trying to develop more capacity in that survival system so that it actually gives us choice. So you actually have the capacity to take different action when you're stressed, which I will show you how to do. So instead of trying to outthink an urge, you have to work with your physiology because you can't talk your nervous system into safety. You have to show it safety through experience. So I'll teach you a tool you can use right now, evidence-based, and it will help meet your nervous system where you're at, okay? So all I want you to do is I'm going to get you to tap on your chest with me, just like this. You're just going to breathe. You might yawn, and I want you to look around. I want you to look around the room that you're in while you're tapping on your chest. Let your head, your neck, and your eyes look around the space that you're in. Look at it as if you're looking for the first time. I want you to name 5 objects you can see in the space that you're in right now. Now I want you to touch 4 different objects. And you'll probably have to stop tapping to do this part, which is totally okay. So touch 4 different objects. Here I've got a cute little hummingbird. You can touch the clothing on that you're wearing, find something with an interesting texture. Okay, touch 4 different objects. Now I want you to listen for 3 different sounds you hear in your room and environment. Now I want you to smell 2 different things. Okay, so find 2 things you can smell. Ooh, that's good. Nice candle. And 1 thing you can taste. So you can have a sip of water or maybe have a snack. Now I want you to notice how you feel after we did that, okay? Pause to notice the subtle effects from your nervous system. What we just did is something called orienting. Very, very important, because when we're in a state of threat and survival, we shut off access to the body. First of all, we excuse me, our vision tends to be very like direct in front of us. We don't look around. And orienting tells our survival brain, I'm here, I'm safe, this moment is not an emergency, have a look around, there's no lions, tigers, or bears. And it starts to settle us and to turn off that stress response, which again, as we just learned about our relationship to food, if our survival brain isn't activated and our survival system isn't taking over, then we actually do have access to that prefrontal cortex and willpower and logic and problem solving. And therefore we get to choose a different behavior. So very, very important to have practical tools that teach your nervous system, I'm safe, I'm okay, I don't have to live in this constant state of red alert, and therefore my body doesn't need to automatically look for food as a source of safety. Make sense? The third thing that we need in order to break free is to realize that tools aren't enough. Tools are great, but we need a full system that actually rewires the root cause of this. That's the part I wish someone had told me years earlier, because if you're a high-functioning, high-achieving woman, you've probably collected a lot of tools. You've got some coping tools, you've got awareness, you've got insight, you might even have a whole note in your phone that says things to try when triggered. Hold some ice cubes, leave the room, call your best friend, have a bath, have a warm shower. And yet somehow, despite having that list of tools, when you're exhausted, you're stressed, you have that familiar internal pressure building in your nervous system, the same pattern happens, right? And then your brain goes, what is wrong with me? Why can't I apply what I know? Nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong with you is the strategy we're given. Nothing wrong with you. Because remember, a nervous system problem doesn't get solved with more information. It doesn't get solved with more discipline because the discipline is offline. And it definitely doesn't get solved by just a bunch of random tools you try once when you're in the red zone. Tools are very helpful and very important, but tools without a system usually just turn into another form of self-pressure and another form of disaster. So if you think you're going to somehow journal your way out of this, that's not going to happen. And the truth bomb is, if you've tried everything and you're scared nothing is going to work, it's probably because everything you tried was focusing on controlling the behavior itself, not changing the actual state driving the behavior. You've tried symptom management for a nervous system problem. So what actually works is you need a full root cause system that does 4 things consistently. First, we need to regulate your nervous system, not just once in crisis, but as a daily practice that expands your capacity so you're not living on the edge of overload or in overload every single day, because this is the cause of everything else. 2, we need subconscious rewiring, because binge eating patterns aren't just habits, they're conditioned pathways that your nervous system learned to feel safe. That has to be rewired at the root using evidence-based tools and methodologies, not arguing with it logically. 3, we need evidence-based tools, not hacks, tools that speak directly to your nervous system, bottom up, so you can actually access choice when you're triggered. And 4th, which is the one high achievers mostly underestimate, you need a proven roadmap and support, because you're doing this alone, and that is the default. This is not going to work alone, because in the moments of stress, you revert back to what you know. It's not because you're weak, but it's because your nervous system goes to what's familiar. A system gives you structure. It gives you accountability. It gives you the right steps in the right order. It gives you feedback, so you're not guessing. It gives you support, so you're not alone trying to figure this out. This is all together exactly what changed things for women like Daniela. She didn't need more motivation or just information. She needed a plan that addressed the root cause and walked her through step by step how she was going to get to a place so that her nervous system no longer needed food as a coping strategy. And that's why she can say now, food and body image are a complete non-issue for me after struggling with this for years, because she has a regulated baseline and she rewired these default pathways, and she has all the tools she will need to maintain this. So if you've been relying on willpower and awareness, I want you to hear this with so much compassion. Awareness will never fix a nervous system problem. Willpower will never fix a nervous system problem. You need a system that changes the state underneath the behavior, the real root cause, because then we're dismantling the whole system from the first domino to the last. If you keep focusing on the last domino, with surface level solutions, more talking this out in therapy. It's like you're going on a road trip with a flat tire, and instead of changing the flat tire, you're choosing to put Windex and shit all over the car. You're trying to basically do everything but fix the flat tire, okay? So if everything I've said to you today feels like a sigh of relief, like you're finally realizing what's been missing for you, then I encourage you to book that one-on-one body confidence and food freedom call, because as I said, we're going to talk through exactly where you're getting stuck. We're going to talk through your goals. We're going to develop a roadmap for you to break free. We're going to learn if joining my program is the right fit for you. And even if you decide not to move forward and work with me, you're going to have so much more clarity and understanding of what you actually need to get through this, okay? Don't book that call if you're just looking for a free coaching call, because that's not what it is. It's for women who are very serious about putting in the work, the energy, the finances to finally overcome this and want a full proven system to help them to do that. That's available below. And just know you're not alone. You will get through this. You are not broken.